Good evening, Ward 5 family. Happy New Year. Hope we have all made it into 2022 safely and will continue to be safe throughout this year. I want to welcome you all to the first meeting of Ward 5's Redistricting Task Force on ANC Commissions. My name is Rafi Aaliyah Crockett, and I'm one of 4 co-chairs helping to guide this work. We are tasked with making recommendations for how the council should adjust Ward 5's ANC and SMD boundaries based on the 2020 census data. We will do so in compliance with DC Code 1-1041 and guidance issued by the Subcommittee on Redistricting. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for agreeing to give your time and attention to these efforts over the next few months. Let patience, kindness, and understanding guide our work. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Councilmember McDuffie, who will make a few remarks.
Thank you, Rafi, and good evening to everyone. As mentioned, my name is Kenyetta McDuffie. I'm the council member for Ward 5, and I see lots of familiar faces on this Zoom, and I want to welcome all of you to our first Ward 5 Redistricting Task Force meeting. I really look forward to working with our task force members and residents across the ward, for that matter, as we come together to examine the population growth that we've experienced in Ward 5 and develop a report that is inclusive and represents what's in the best interest of all of our residents. I want to thank our co-chairs, Sandy Washington, Rafi Crockett, Timmy Bennett, and Nolan Treadway for accepting the invitation to serve as leaders of this Ward 5 task force. I also want to thank the council's subcommittee on redistricting for all that they have done to keep this process moving forward. I see people on the Zoom, as I mentioned, are familiar faces, but also folks who I know have participated in these types of redistricting efforts over the years, and we're going to be looking to you all for your insights, experience, and guidance, given the investment that you've made of your time and your insights to these processes and redistricting efforts over the years. As many of you know, on December 21st of last year, the council approved the new ward boundaries as the first phase of the redistricting process. And when the council subcommittee on redistricting begin their process to withdraw the ward boundaries, I knew, as I'm sure some of you did, that it was going to be important to ensure that our ward, Ward 5, worked together to maintain our boundaries. Despite just a few bumps in the road, I'm pleased that we were able to maintain the boundaries that we had and only had a bit of an expansion in the lower southwest portion around Truxton area of the ward. And so I want to thank many of you who participated in that effort and helped to advocate for Ward 5 during that process, through your testimony, through your letters, through your emails, through your tweets, and your other communications to convey your sentiments. And I think the collective wishes of Ward 5. When things became challenging, you all really came together, as we always do in Ward 5, and made our voices heard throughout the city. We showed up at hearings, like I mentioned, and all your communications, I think, led to a number of resolutions being passed at the ANC level, as well as petitions that were gathered to ensure that our voices were heard. And it is that level of engagement and, frankly, togetherness that I've always appreciated about Ward 5, and I'm truly grateful to be your council member. And so I hope that same level of energy and engagement is going to be a part of this next phase of the redistricting process. According to the 2020 census, Ward 5 saw a 20% increase from our population at the last census in 2010, and it's now home to more than 89,000 residents. Based on the information we received actually just today, there are currently 25 single-member districts out of a total of 37 in the ward that now exceed the 2,000 resident plus or minus 5% threshold mandated for each single-member district. So we're going to have our work cut out for us, but I'm sure we're going to be able to get through it. Our advisory neighborhood commissioners clearly work tirelessly for our residents, and they give their all to ensure our communities are organized receive timely citizen services, and have a voice when decisions are being made. I've selected what I think you will agree is a diverse task force with neighbors from various communities and backgrounds who I know are going to work together to make thoughtful and necessary changes that benefit our entire ward. There's several residents who've expressed their desire to serve on the task force, and I'm going to appreciate their willingness of so many of our neighbors to help in this process. Many of you all know Jonathan McNair and Sandra Karpinski on my staff. They're going to be at all the task force meetings in case there are questions or concerns that need to be addressed at the council level. You obviously see me, and I want to thank you all again for your participation. I look forward to working together with each of you over the coming months to create what I know is going to be an equitable, fair, and transparent approach to the redistricting of ANC boundaries in our wonderful Ward 5. And so now I'm going to turn it back over to Rafi to lead us through the meeting.
Thank you, Councilmember McDuffie. I'd briefly like to ask my co-chairs to introduce themselves as we kick off this meeting. We'll start with you, Nolan, please.
Sure. Hi, thanks, Rafi. Nolan Treadway here, former Woodridge ANC, and very nice to be with you all. And the other two are Temi and
Temi.
Evening, everybody. I'm Temi Bennett. I live in Bloomingdale, been in Bloomingdale since 2006, and bought my house in 2015 with topo rights that no longer exist. And I work for IF, which is a private foundation, racial justice foundation in DC. We fund in the region. Happy to be here and happy to serve.
Ms. Washington.
Good evening, everyone. Sandy Washington, ANC Commissioner for 5A07. Been a commissioner for about 17 years. I don't know why so long. However, I'm glad to be a part of this task force. I'm here to help move forward our ward.
And finally, I am Rafi Aaliyah Crockett. I was raised in Pleasant Hills. I actually live in Michigan Park now, so Ward 5 for life. I'm a risk and regulatory professional, and I also serve on the ABC board. And so I would also like each of you all, each of the task force members, to briefly just introduce yourself, what neighborhood you're from, and no more than 2 affiliations of yours. And I would like to do this alphabetically, but I don't know that everyone has the list in front of them. So I'm just going to shout you out. So I'm going to start with you, Anthony Hood, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Anthony Hood. I was born and raised in North Michigan Park, and I now live in Woodridge.
Brian Relaford.
Hello, everybody. My name is Brian Relaford. I'm the pastor of Union Wesley Church, and we're here across the street from the Avondale Center.
Great. Adrian Jordan, please.
Good evening, everybody. Adrian Jordan, lifelong Ward 5 resident, former ANC 5A commissioner, and now Fort Lincoln resident.
Commissioner Moore.
Hello, I am a Carver Langston resident, and I am the current chairperson of ANC 5D.
Ms. Shirley Rubin-Smith.
Good evening. My name is Shirley Rubin-Smith. I live in North Woodridge. I'm the chair of the North Woodridge Citizens Association. I've been chair for 5B for over 10 years, so I'm retired from that. Thank you.
Eric Grant.
Hello all, Eric Grant here. I was raised in North Michigan Park as well, and I currently live in Fort Lincoln.
Tiffany Bridge.
Hi, Tiffany Bridge. I've been in Brooklyn now for 12 years. I'm a former ANC 5B03 commissioner, and I'm very excited to meet you all.
Commissioner Pinckney.
Hello.
Yes.
I'm trying to get into the meeting. Well, I am in it. I can't get my picture straight. So anyway, okay, I am Commissioner Pinckney. I am in Eckington.
All right, thank you. Jeffrey Hatchard.
I am Jeff Hatchard. I am a proud Trinidad resident, bought my home here in 2009, and my son goes to Wheatley Elementary and Wheatley Education Campus now, pardon me. And I'm happy to be a member of the task force again this year.
Commissioner Higgins.
Hi, good evening. I'm Commissioner Higgins. I am the chair of ANC 5B, the single member district 5B02, and I'm glad to be here and a part of the task force. Thank you so much.
Great. Did I miss anyone? Nope. Okay. Thank you very much. So,
Sarah Wilkinson.
Sarah Wilkinson.
Oh, maybe somebody. It's my 17.
Hey everyone, I'm Sarah. I live in Brookland and I'm the mom of a preschooler.
Okay.
Thank you. So I'm going to hand this over to Jonathan, who's going to kind of walk us through what this process looks like over the next few months.
Thanks, Rafi. I appreciate it. I am Jonathan Member McDuffie's Director of Community Engagement. I'm also a third-generation Ward 5 native. I'm currently living here in Fort Lincoln, and I'm happy to be here to support the task force as well as the council member through this process. I will start with a timetable for the ANC redistricting process. I would say about 2 weeks ago, the subcommittee sent us a mandate that we needed to hold a meeting by January 16th, hence why this meeting is taking place this week today. And we have decided to have 2 meetings a month at a minimum. There's an opportunity for us to expand that if the task force believes that is in the best interest of our residents. Currently, we will have 2 meetings in January, 2 meetings in February, and 2 meetings in March with a hope to meet the mandate of providing a report to the full council by April 1st. There'll be a redistricting task force report template that will be provided to the entire task force shortly enough. I'm hoping that we'll have that before the next upcoming meeting on the 25th. Meetings will take place on every other Tuesday of the month. After the report is submitted, we will also have hearings that will take place at the council level. And our hope and expectation is that our task force members, as well as residents across the ward, will be able to testify at those hearings and speak to the recommendations that we've collaboratively put together to represent the interests of Ward 5. So that our voices are heard at the council level and we don't have any hiccups. I know that's what we're all hoping for. In May and June, the subcommittee will have a vote on the ANC and SMD boundaries. And then that will be referred to the full council where 2 votes will take place in June of this year so that the new boundaries for ANC and SMD will be redrawn for the November election. That is the preliminary information that I have on timetable. I will provide more detailed information at a later date as I receive it. All of these meetings are subject to the Open Meetings Act, which means that all of the meetings must be noticed, open to the public, and recorded. I will ensure that these meetings are streamed on our Zoom, Facebook, and our YouTube page live, as well as recorded, so residents can go back at their viewing pleasure, and task force members who are unable to participate on any given date can see what they may have missed and catch up on the happenings of the meeting as well. We'll also be receiving information from the Office on Planning. Office on Planning just got with us today with some preliminary information around Ward 5. They'll be providing us with hard copies of maps, as well as detailed information by SMD on the population growth. So we know exactly what we need to do. And I'll be getting that to our co-chairs, who will be disseminating that to the entire task force. Also, as the council member clearly stated, there's a mandate that all of our single member districts must contain between 1,900 and 2,100 residents. It's a 5% deviation on 2,000 people. And we'll be focused on that. The limitations, of the census geography or from the promotion of a rational public policy, including but not limited to respect for the natural geography of the District of Columbia, neighborhood cohesiveness, and development of compact and contiguous districts. The DC code also requires an overall deviation range of 10% from the smallest to the largest single member district. So we will be looking at that as well as individual populations when we make our final decisions. I'll have more information for you as OP gets it to me. Also, OP will be scheduling a planning session for all task force members citywide to be able to participate in understanding how to draw map proposals using the council's new tool. They're reconfiguring it. They've not finished that yet. Once it becomes complete, you all will receive a notice and everyone will have an opportunity to be able to participate and see it. I will ensure that it's recorded so that we can view it back at a later date to understand exactly the best way to be able to use that technology. Our hope is that given COVID, maybe things lighten up and we'll have an opportunity to meet in person and we can have those hard copies in front of us. That is to be determined given COVID-19 right now and everything that we're dealing with that. But I will keep you all up to date. I just thank you all for coming to join and providing all of your assistance on this and being responsive to me as I continue to communicate with you. I sent an email out earlier today asking for some contact information. When you get an opportunity, please respond to that so I can keep everybody up to date and have all of your most current contact information. I'll turn it over to Rafi now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. As he stated, we'll be meeting every other Tuesday between now and March 22nd. And at this point, we just want to open it up. Do you all have any questions about the work ahead of us, the timeline, or anything else? So we're clear. Everyone's got their marching orders and we're going to get these boundaries done like this. We don't even need till March. We got this in Ward 5. Is this what's happening?
Now all of y'all are veterans. I imagine some of you all have some questions. I know you all there's some veterans on this call for sure who participated in 2010 and 2000, but also some folks who were extraordinarily helpful in this year's ward boundary analysis, evaluation, and testimony. But I do want to make sure that you all feel comfortable asking any questions you might have. I think I saw a hand with Mr. Hood.
Yeah, I do have a question. 20 years ago and 10 years ago, you could hardly see the maps then. So we want to make sure, Jonathan and Rafi and everybody, that you get maps big enough, and that was 20 and 10 years ago. So we need to get maps, and this is 30 years later now, or 20 years later now. So we want to make sure that we get maps big enough so you can read, unless something has changed. I don't know, I'm not too familiar with the new tool, but I would encourage us to get the larger maps from OP. And OP had a section years ago. If we're going to do it digitally, that's different. But if you do it hard copies, make sure we get the largest maps we can get.
Mr. Hood, I will make sure that we get the largest copies that we can get. And I do know that a part of that report, we will submit a map proposal along with the recommendations for why that proposal should be, and it must be done using the tool, but we will have physical maps that I think we can work off of and mirror what we do digitally.
And there's this thing called the internet. I'm not sure how familiar you are with it. No, I'm just joking. I'm sorry. I couldn't resist. I'm sorry, Hood. I'm sorry. I would have only done that with you and nobody else on this call. But we'll make sure you can see the maps and everything on them.
Hey, Eric Grant here. A couple questions from an administrative perspective. First, are we expected that these 6 p.m. meetings would last an hour, 30 minutes? What's the expectation there? And then number two, the availability of the data to kind of prepare for the meetings or so, like what should we expect from that point of view?
Eric, I can speak to the availability and the time. The expectation is that these meetings would last roughly about 90 minutes, starting at 6 p.m. each Tuesday. Also, from the data perspective, we're going to get a lot of detailed data from OP. I know a little bit of what we've received already is a breakdown by single member district, which we'll be responsible for, and it'll talk about the change in population from 2010 from the 2020 census data. And we'll be able to look at that with the map and also with census tracts to ensure that we're meeting the council mandate. So everyone will have an opportunity to look at that. To the extent we need additional data, OP has offered itself as for technical assistance. So we can ask questions, we can ask for more things, and I'll be looking for feedback from the task force to be able to make a determination on what more we need outside of the baseline of what they've given us.
And just a quick note from me on scheduling, ANC 5D meets on the second Tuesday, and so I'll be logging off at 7, but that's my only quick note. Not that everyone needs to be overly concerned about my conflicts.
Thanks for mentioning.
Anyone else?
Will there be?
Oh, go ahead.
Also, apologies if this was mentioned, Jonathan, but will there be opportunities to engage the council on this? I think this has to go through like the legislative process, right? So I think folks on the committee are, we're hoping that they can turn out and testify in support of this plan. Is that, and that's out in like March and April, is that right? I don't have more detail.
It's in April. It'll be after the ward committees submit their task force report. We don't have dates for when those hearings will be. I do know at the ward level, there was a hearing at the beginning that was projected citywide and a hearing at the end that was projected citywide. And then there was a hearing for each individual ward. And if they follow that same plan, we'll have plenty of opportunity to be able to testify in April. But I will provide that information as soon as I receive it.
Commissioner Washington?
Well, I was just thinking, we have a large committee, and how are we going to, there's a lot of information that's going to come out and be disseminated. And in the past, we worked in groups. We were, kind of designated in groups to work on particular areas of the ward. And I was just wondering if that's something that we may be able to do, or if we, as the co-chairs have thought about, is something, unless, we're just going to come together as a total group and just do the entire ward, as a whole group. That's just a question, a concern.
Let me just take that one if you don't mind, co-chairs. I think that's a great question. I also think it really tees up the importance of you all understanding your role and how valuable it is to this process. I know there are some folks who, and I've said this a few times, who participated in the ANC redistricting process in the past. And you're going to bring that experience and share, like Sandy just did, how that went. And maybe collectively you all decide to conduct some of your business in a manner the same or similar to what's been done in the past, but you shouldn't feel obligated to do so, right? This is something that I want you all to understand you're empowered to do. This is not, council member dictating things by bureaucratic fiat. That is not what this process is going to look like. It's going to look like you representing the ward bringing your experiences from the ward to this process, and ultimately us deciding how these things should look. And so, Commissioner Washington, I think, and Jeffrey, you can weigh in now, but I think your experience, as experience of some of the other folks who participated, is going to be insightful in determining, I think, ultimately how you all decide you want to break down the work and ultimately make recommendations. Jeff?
Thanks, Kenyon. I just wanted to ask you, actually, what kind of input should we expect from you during this process, or should we expect any at all?
You should expect me to. You're muted. That's strange. Can you all hear me? Okay. All right. I said that I was muted. You should expect me to participate to the extent I think it's necessary. I want this to be a bottom-up process, not a top-down process. And so I know that we've got a very capable group of task force members, and I, just so you know, context, I participated in a similar process 20 years ago. My hair was much less gray. In fact, I think I had locks back then when I participated. But it was very enlightening to me. It was one of my early introductions into the civic sort of process. And I felt like, even as a young person, relatively speaking, to the seasoned people who were in the room, I felt like folks were listening and that they wanted to hear from me and my input, and that it was ultimately, despite some of the strong personalities that some of you all are familiar with, that I felt valued in a way that I thought was it's just something that I appreciate and I can still reflect on in a way that's positive. And I hope that's the same feelings that you all get. I think there may be some heated discussions, there may be some controversy, there may be some disagreements, but ultimately, I think people in Ward 5 come together to get things done in the best interest of the ward. And so, Jeff, the short answer is, I will participate to the extent you all need my participation. And I imagine that won't be very often, but I'll be available whenever you all need me. And obviously Jonathan and Sandra will be available as well.
Do we have any final questions, concerns? Jonathan, you have any closing remarks?
The only thing that I did not mention is that we do have a few task force members who have not joined us today. So you may see some additional faces, and then at-large members have the opportunity to appoint folks to our task force. So that can happen at any time. So we'll have some additional support coming in. And I know that folks on the call have other obligations on those Tuesdays. So just please communicate with us and let us know if you need anything, but I'll have additional correspondence coming from the council from you all very soon.
Jeffrey, is that your hand raised?
That is, yes. Okay. I'm remembering 10 years ago, and so things are just coming to me as we go here, sorry. One other thing regarding communication, last time we had a listserv set up where, we'd send emails and to be able to communicate with everyone all at once. Do we want to put something together like that? Will we put together something like that so we can have kind of an instant group communication when we're not meeting?
Absolutely, Jeff, that is a wonderful idea. And I was thinking about that today. So yes, that will happen. If you have recommendations on how it was done or how it could be best carried out, what platform would be most user-friendly, feel free to share.
And I can help with that too, Jonathan, or Jeffrey. I can help facilitate making sure that's enough.
Thanks, I appreciate that, Nolan.
Eric, did you?
Yeah, I did have one thing. So I was just doing the math in my head, and so we say plus there like 2,000 residents plus or minus 5%. So that ranges between 1,900 and 2,100 residents, right? Per this I mean, maybe we'll get to this when we get to future meetings, but it's geographical limitations with respect to that small range of residents, seems tough. So maybe that's why this task force was put together. And then also the, no difference, I guess it can be no more than a 10% difference between the single members. So it's almost the same between 1,900 and 2,100. So I just want to make sure I understood that, I'm thinking about that correctly. Okay.
Indeed you are, and we are really guided by the census numbers. And I think it's a good opportunity to say that we're not going to be factoring in future growth, that this process should be carried out based on the current and actual census data as we received it from the U.S. Census Bureau. And so that information, as Jonathan mentioned earlier, Eric, is what we're going to be receiving and have maybe already see some of it from the district's local office of planning. But that's going to come up. It's a great question. It's going to come up today. It'll come up likely throughout the process as people, think about, cranes that they see, development that's occurring, places that are slated for new houses or multifamily units. We got to go by the numbers that we have currently, and I appreciate you asking that question.
Any final thoughts, questions? I'm going to wrap up and give you all your Tuesday evening back. No? Thank you all so much for participating in this first meeting. I'm really appreciative of your time and your efforts, and we're going to get this done. It's going to be fair. It's going to be equitable. We're going to be kind to one another. We're going to be understanding of one another. And we're going to have a positive experience here in Ward 5. So thank you all very much, and have a wonderful week. And everybody, please stay safe out there.
Thanks. Y'all take care.
I just want to say hi, Tiffany. Thanks, Rafi.